Hey, welcome back to Five Lakes Garage, and today hopefully we'll be one step closer to finishing this shed. If you caught all the rest of the series, we put bricks down for foundation, we put it on skids, we put it, did the floor, we did the walls, the roof, the rafters. I even put a loft up there just so I can store some crap. Nothing really heavy because they're only 2x4s. I could double them up or even use 2x6s, but I'm trying to keep the cost of this thing down a little bit. The cost of this entire project is ridiculous because of the price of lumber. Went to the shop, went to Home Depot today to pick up some lumber for the ramps, which hopefully I'll just go ahead and add that to this video. And the composite was the same price as the thick decking boards. I've never seen that. That is ridiculous. It seems like everybody's building, and not only that, they can't keep the supply in, so they're jacking up the prices and making a mint because of people like us that want to build stuff, and yeah, and we're willing to pay for it, I guess. Yeah, my CFO is not the happiest person when she gets the bills for these things. But anyway, so what we're going to do today is actually build out some doors. I've already built these two out. We just used some 1x4 as a border all the way around. We also just used some regular siding. Now, instead of having the lines where it's overlapping on this, I just put them, I just butted it up to each other. And once you seal it with caulking and paint it, it should be weather tight. Mostly did that just because I wanted the weather tight on there. And actually, it's cheaper to get siding than it is to get the other plywood, but that's fine. So basic construction of this guy here. We do have the 1x4. We got plywood, then we got 2x4 inner structure. So we got 2x4 inner structure, and it's pretty sturdy. Just go ahead and get a door kit, which comes with a post to go down into the floor, and then it also comes with, well, then the hinges come up separately. I did use these little smaller hinges. The first hinges that I picked up, they were basically door hinges. I was trying to keep it to where you didn't really see the hinges. That wasn't working out very well because they were a little bit too small. They could handle the weight, but with the siding and the plywood and all this stuff, I was literally hanging the door from the plywood, which is not very strong. So anyway, I'm gonna go through step by step on how exactly I built these doors. A couple quick tips before I really get started and tell you exactly what we are going to use, which I have it around the other corner because it is windy today, and I apologize for that. But today we're just going to build the other door. I got one more left, and then we're going to build some ramps, and I'll show you all that. And then I need to finish sealing it. I did caulk a little bit, but obviously I didn't caulk these doors. I need to caulk the doors, and then also go around and make sure I didn't miss anything. Any hole that is left, water will seep in. If water seeps in there, there are some material in here that is just going to rot out. It's just going to get wet. It's going to start warping and all that type of stuff. So make sure you caulk it. And then I'm going to have to wait for the weather to change a little bit better. Still a little bit chilly to paint. But if I can get a good afternoon, maybe I'll at least work on one side, get all the trim done. And then later on I'll come in and actually do the green, which we have to match the rest of the house, which is the main reason why I'm building it myself rather than just having one delivered. It would have been a lot easier just to have one delivered. And at this rate, the price of timber, it's probably would have been cheaper. The only reason why I did not get one delivered though is because I did want to have a little bit higher. I looked at my brother's shed, and it's actually built really well. I was actually impressed by it. But there was a couple little aspects that I really wanted to have in there. Like, he only has one door coming in. I kind of want to have two doors. So I got 2 entrances, and the main reason why I wanted to do that was because if I run the mower up here, I can run it out the other side to actually get to the backyard, because unfortunately this is my only access unless I take up the garden to get into my backyard with any kind of equipment. Which, over the years we put a berm up. Okay, that killed the whole backside. We got gates on over there, so we can't bring stuff through there. And then, so I figured, why not? Let's do this, and at least give us an option anyway. But yes, it's getting expensive. Anyway, let's go to the other side of the garage and show you exactly what we have to use. Now, before we go out to the front, let me show you exactly what you're gonna need to measure before you actually start cutting your boards. So you take your tape measure and you go from casing to casing and figure out exactly what that is. This is exactly 72 inches, which would be about 6 foot. So each door will be 3 foot apiece. Well, you kind of want to have a little bit of gap just to give you a little bit of clearance. You don't want to have them butt up against each other. It is wood, but it will grow, it will shrink, and that type of stuff in the weather. So if you knock it back to be 35.5 inches wide, then you should be okay. Now from the deck to the top rail, which is right here, it is about 83 and some change, so I knocked it down to 83. That gives me a little bit of gap on top. Down below, we will just make our ramps to butt up to the bottom, and then we can we should be okay as far as gap top to bottom. So my doors are going to be 83 inches high by 35.5 inches wide. Now again, with the inside frame, I'm going to pull an inch off of that, so it's going to be 34.5 to be able to close it and open it and that type of stuff, and still have the structural stability in order for it not to fold up and bend up and all the other crap. So anyway, now let's go to the front and figure out what we're going to do. All right, so I am in the front of the garage trying to get away from the wind a little bit because it is a little bit chilly and it's windy today. So anyway, these are the materials that I was actually going to use for this. I got 2x4s. I just use regular studding, and I'll cut these down to size. Now the plywood itself, due to the fact that lumber is so freaking expensive, and I am putting a lot of siding and trim and all the other stuff on there, the plywood doesn't have to be a full sheet. I have a bunch of scrap from other pieces, the walls and the roof and stuff like that I had to cut off. So I'm going to use that instead, and then I'll just, you know, butt them up together all the way down. So I'm going to use that. The siding that we're going to use is actually it's a concrete board. This is hardy plank, hardy board, hardy siding if you want to call it. You got to use special blades in order to cut this. Same thing with the siding around the building. So we're going to use this stuff. Had some left over, so we're going to use that. Now the basic trim board, since it is outside, I am using pressure treated, which I don't even think they're pressure treated anymore. It's basically they soak it with a bunch of chemical and then they ship it out to the store while it's still wet. So if you don't use it right away, it will warp on you while it dries out. So anyway, so we're gonna use this as 1x4 as the outside trim. And yeah. So as far as fastening it all together, the 2x4 frame, we're going to use some 3-inch nails out of the nail gun. And I'll try not to, you know, poke it through my hand again, which sucked. And also for the actual siding and the trim board, we're going to use a finishing nailer so you don't see the big giant nail heads coming out. I feel like if you put enough of those in there, it's not going to come off. And not only that, after you caulk it, it's pretty much, the caulk is like a glue. It will hold things together. So I'm gonna go ahead and build these and we'll show you that. Oh, almost forgot. Okay, so the one that I have up there right now, I do have one up there. I have that set. I have it, you know, everything is all in there. The hinges are there. But on this particular one, I'm gonna build the frame. I'm gonna put the plywood on, and then I'm gonna put one trim board on the side where the hinge is gonna be. I'm gonna put the hinge on, then I'm gonna put it on the building. And the reason why I want to do that, I want to build it on the building itself, is for two reasons. One, this thing is heavy, and trying to set a door while it's really heavy has been a pain in the butt. So that's one reason. The other reason is that when I put the other trim boards around, I can set my gaps. If it's already pre-made and actually on the building itself, it's if it's warped, if it's curved, if it's whatever, if your measurements are off, then it's really going to show, and it's really hard to hide that. So I'm going to build it on the actual building itself to make sure my gaps are exactly right where I want them. So anyway, I'm going to do a time lapse and put this together. All right, a couple quick tips for when you are making these doors. In all four corners, I did put a 45 miter on there, so that it kind of makes it square, kind of helps you line everything up. And also I put in 2 nails on top, 2 nails on the side, just to be able to get extra strength. Also, when you're cutting plywood or 2x4s or whatever, especially when you're ripping long cuts, don't have your saw so deep. If you have it just below the surface, there's not a lot of blade actually in the wood itself, so that you can correct as you go. If you have too much blade in there, then it's too much to be able to, oh, I'm getting a little off, let me push it back over a little bit. It's just a little bit difficult to do that. But if you have less blade, there's less blade in the wood, and it actually will be able to turn a little bit easier, a little bit nicer. So just keep that in mind. Also, as far as the nails that I'm using for this, try not to, you don't need 3-inch nails to put in plywood. I grabbed some 2-inch rib shanks, and that should be strong enough to be able to hold this plywood on. So I'm going to put on a 1x4 on this side over here. Now, due to the fact that I have quite a bit of scrap left over, that's what I'm going to use, and I'm just going to caulk the seams and call it a day. This is just a shed, and I can't see it from my bedroom. So just trying to cut a couple costs here and there. But anyway, I'm going to put all the way down one side, and then I'll put hinges on, and then once I put hinges on, I'll put it on the door, I'll put it on the shed, and then build out the rest of it. And you're going to see it with a little more detail this time, because I'm not as rushed, because it's already pretty much dried in. All right, here's another quick tip for putting on trim boards. And this basically comes for almost anything, decking and stuff like that. I always look for the frowny face, if you want to call it that. So if you look at the board this way, it will start crowning. When it starts drying up, it's either going to pull in or push out. In this particular case, what I like to do is, if you look at this right here, I always look for the frowny face. So this part right here will be against the backing board, or the joists if you're working on a deck. And the only reason why I like to do that is that the nails hopefully will help it from curling too much. And not only that, if you have it rounded off this way, it's a little bit easier on the feet, especially on a deck. If it goes up, you got to sand all that down or replace the boards or whatever. Some people have different philosophies. That's mine. I like to use the frownies. So I'm going to put this up here. Also, when you are putting the hinges on, make sure it's on the side that's flush. Like I said before, I had to build the frame a little bit smaller than the actual door itself, only so when you close the two pieces together, it'll be able to close. So make sure that the middle section is the section that has the gap. This side here with the hinges, you kind of want to have it butt up against the other side, so make sure your hinges are on that side. And one other problem, when you use scrap pieces and you try to butt two of them together, you're going to come up with a situation like this right here, which I'm going to have to caulk that because one board is slightly wider than the other. Go figures. It's just the way it happens when they start drying up. They're going to start pulling into each other, and so one's going to be a little bit bigger than the other. But that's okay, because caulking and paint will kind of hide it and all that type of stuff. Like I said, I'm not building a house, I'm building a shed. Anyway, so this is the reason why I build the thing on the door, on the shed itself. So basically I set up my board here. It was a little bit warped, so I nailed it in, and then you move it along as you go. Keep nailing and nailing it till you get the seam that you really want. Now what I'm going to do is actually measure it for the bottom and the top. I'm going to also measure this right here, the center the center board, and try to get that to be the right size and also the right spacing. So anyway, once we get that in there, I'm going to cut some siding. We're going to nail that up, and then this door should be good to go. So let's go. All right, so we're getting ready to do the siding, and like I said before, you need a special blade for that. That's where this guy comes in. You can see it's a little differently shaped than the other ones. This one doesn't dull as fast as the other ones as well. This is definitely a time where you do as I suggest, not as I do, because this right here is my the one that I actually have this blade on. Now here's the problems with these things. This thing is old. It used to be my father's. It's probably older than I am, but as you can see, the spring is no longer springing on the guard. Got to be careful with it. I really should not be using it. Also, my guard around here, it broke off. It's been gone for years, but it is set up to do siding, and it's the only thing I use it for. So just try to be careful. I don't let the kids around it because it doesn't have any guards on it, which is not cool. Always have to wait for the blade to stop in order to put it down on the ground and all that stuff, but it still works. All right, so I'm gonna take my tape measure and I'm gonna go to the bottom and go to the top. And this is another reason why I set it up on the shed itself, because when I put this board in, it is a 1/8 of an inch difference between the bottom and the top. So once you put siding on it and stuff like that, you're never gonna notice it. But if I were to build it out there and then try to set it up, it would never, I would have an 1/8 inch gap, you know, in between the doors. And you can definitely see that. I did see where I did kind of goof up a little bit. I should have got my ladder out, which I didn't, which my gap right here on top of the door, it's a little bit more than I was kind of hoping it would be. I'm kind of hoping once I paint it white with shadows and stuff like that, you won't notice it as bad. So don't pick on me too much about it. You know, I'm not a professional. So anyway, I'm going to put siding on. And also, before I put, look at your other doors, make sure they all match. So I have 4 plates on the top, and then I have my divider piece. Then I'll start it from the bottom and work my way up, because that one that is right below the divided piece is the one that I actually have to rip down. I think it's, if I'm good enough on this, it should come down to be about 4.5 inches deep to rip it across, and we'll do that on the skill saw. Check it out. All right, as you can see, I do have my lock in place, and what that's going to do is actually go straight through the floor, so that if you can only open up one door at a time. That's definitely more security, because if you just have a latch in the middle, you can break the latch and just pull the door wide open. This will actually help you keep it somewhat safe. Unfortunately, all the hinges have screws on the outside, so anybody with a drill can just unscrew them and the door comes right off. So keep that in mind. We will be putting a security camera aiming towards this thing. It's not like we're gonna have a huge amount of stuff in here, but we got crazy. We got a whole field in the back, not much security. So anyway, so what we're gonna do is actually put a dent in the floor to see where we're gonna drill. There we go. I have a dent in the floor so that I can actually drill. So there's my batteries that don't last for anything for crap. Anyway, so I'm gonna drill this directly down in here. And yes, it feels weird drilling into a perfectly good floor. All right, let's check it out. All right, it's pretty close to where we want to be. We're gonna put a lock on the outside, and this side will be done. I think I'm just gonna split it up in the next video. We're gonna do the ramps, which I'm getting ready to do right now, but this one seems to be getting a little bit long. So anyway, hopefully that gives you a couple quick tips on how to make some doors. There are better ones out there. These are the ones that I just built, so they're good. A couple quick tips. Something kind of simple, a pencil. Now, when you have a pencil in your carpentering, they have carpenter pencils. Now, the thing about these is that when you sharpen it, the lead on the inside is a lot bigger, so it makes a darker mark. Also, it doesn't break as easy. But when you're doing regular pencils like this, and you get your knife out, you say, oh, I got to sharpen this. Don't take big swipes. Just do like little tiny ones. So you have a lot of meat right there that actually will keep the lead from breaking. If you go from way back here like a regular pencil sharpener would be, the lead just breaks all the time. So just a little quick tip. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys can make your own doors. Save a little bit of cash and having somebody else to do it for you. But unfortunately, with today's lumber prices, it's not that cheap. Holy crap. But anyway, we're almost done. The only thing we have left here on these doors would be to put a lock on, which would take me 2 minutes, and then caulk it. Always be careful with your measurement. Try not to rush. Unfortunately, I had to rush on this one in so many different aspects that I cut a couple corners, and I probably shouldn't have, but we're trying to beat the rain. It rained last night pretty bad, a lot of wind, And I don't see any water anywhere in here, so I guess we did an okay job on the roof. But anyway, next thing will be the ramps, and then after that it would be paint, and then cosmetic stuff just to tidy stuff up, make sure the doors are actually fitting a little bit better. I might have to sand a little bit down here to make the floor level, but other than that, we should be in good shape. Check out the next episode, and we'll have some ramps. Thanks.